Yeah, it was in 2010 I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis, and that's what left me housebound for almost a year. And so I was facing having my colon removed. A big part of the healing was getting back into my love and passion for music and creating music.
Yeah, I think more and more people are realizing.
That's why we need like philanthropic people to donate,
Mhm.
as we know that that's so good. Breath-based meditation is the best. Yeah, in Soma Breath, we make that practice very easy and fun because the
Mhm.
music, you're breathing to music, your breath is dancing with the beat, and that's a natural,
Mhm.
effortless meditation. Because there's many forms of meditation. Once you understand what
Right.
is meditation,
Niraj, welcome to the podcast. Really great to talk to you today.
great to be here, my friend.
Yeah. So I have to say that breath work is something that I didn't even know about until about 10 years ago. And the first time I heard of it, I just kind of brushed it off as, something that hippies did or something that wasn't really effective. Just what it wasn't real, right? Yeah, we all breathe every day, and I didn't get it. This past winter, I did a breathwork session for the very first time. And I thought, oh, wow, I kind of get it. And I started talking to the teacher a little bit and other people. And that's how I got down this rabbit hole and found you because I was really interested in learning more about breath work. So super excited to talk to you today about this and how people can benefit from it. So welcome.
Fantastic. Sure.
Yeah.
Happy to share what I know.
Yeah. Excellent. Let me just get I wrote a bunch of questions. If we don't get to them all, that's totally fine. We can just kind of have a more organic conversation. So, first, I want to first start with your journey that starts with a major health crisis. So, can you just take us back to that moment and what sparked your healing journey and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it was in 2010 I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis, and that's what left me housebound for almost a year. Shitting blood like 40 times a day was hell. But that's where I realized all the conventional treatments don't really uh, fix the root cause of the problem. And so I was facing having my colon removed, or be a guinea pig for a drug, hasn't been even tested before. So I was actually a pharmacist at the time, so I know the ins and outs of that. So I didn't really want to go down that path, but I didn't really have much choice. But then, luckily, by fate, a friend of our family is a yoga teacher called Swami Kananda. She came to rescue, knew that I was suffering, and she offered another solution, which actually started with a change in perception of the illness, looking at it more like a gift as a way
Hmm.
for me to also escape my monotonous career as a pharmacist, which I hated, to give me new meaning and purpose. Because if I could turn it around, I could be a great example to others, and I'd find another method that I'm more aligned to. Because I was so depressed working as a pharmacist because I just saw how dysfunctional it is. So by amazing um, fate, she taught me some of the simple breathing techniques from pranayama. She gave me a whole understanding of medicine from Ayurvedic perspective, and taught me like the meditation techniques from yoga. And within a few months, I completely reversed this and totally changed my life. And a big part of the healing was getting back into my love and passion for music and creating music.
Hmm.
And I realized I can actually make these techniques more profound by adding music to it. And that's what became the birth of like Soma Breath, early versions of that. I didn't call it that at that point. Um, and that's what turned into this incredible movement that we've created through Soma Breath.
Yeah. So was it I guess with a background as a pharmacist, how did you make that leap from that kind of hard science drugs uh, over to what you're doing now? It seems like quite a leap.
Yeah, it's a huge change, obviously, in mindset. And, because in the pharmacy world, you're very indoctrinated into evidence based
Hmm.
medication's the only thing that works. In fact, the consultant who I saw, I asked her, like, what about stress? What about diet? What about lifestyle and all this? And she said, no, shut up, take the pills, nothing's proven. So there's the thing, like, unless it's
Right.
proven in a clinical trial, You know, I've looked into how do you go about getting a clinical trial for what we do, and I'm actually working with Cambridge University. Cambridge have validated our modality as a alternative to psychedelics, right, for altered states of consciousness and all the benefits psychedelics have for things like depression. But to do a proper clinical trial, third party verified, where it's actually, you know, something that the NHS in the UK would want to put in, you know, to their protocol, you need £1 million to £2 million of funding,
Yeah.
which is like very difficult for scientists to get unless a company that's going to get profit out of it is willing to invest. That's why pharma runs the world, because they're the only ones who can afford to pay for the trials. And that's why so many trials are dodgy, because they're the ones funding it. So it's hard to trust any study now. You always have to follow the money. So here's a problem with that. There wasn't much evidence at the time, so I had to kind of let go of my disbelief and just go for it, because also my culture, as being an immigrant, a son of an immigrant family in England, we have been totally indoctrinated our own culture. My parents, like, also, my mum's a medical doctor. She also educated out of our own culture. They don't practice yoga. They don't do any of these things. They were freaked out when I said that I wasn't going to keep taking the pills, even though they were making me sick. So I had to literally leave my environment. I had to go. I went and lived with a friend who happened to also be a medical doctor, but he lost his like love for that profession as well. But that was the best thing that happened. I moved away, got out of that negative, toxic environment, where a lot of my family, friends, relatives are all medical doctors, and all think that I was crazy trying to do something away from that system.
I
So
imagine.
yeah,
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. So that's why like a lot of people get stuck,
Yeah.
because they aren't willing to do something different, because there's no science yet that validates it. When I'll lay you into a secret, most of the clinical trials are fake. They're uh, funded by companies that have vested interests in profit, and this is not just me saying it. This is the head of the Lancet, which is the number one like most like credible um, research publication that has all the research papers published through them, and he says that you can't trust them anymore. They're too corrupt. Same thing as one of the heads of the BMJ. Yeah, especially during COVID, they woke up to the shenanigans
Yeah.
during COVID. So even they say the same. So it's like, do you trust pharma anymore? Like, fourth leading cause of deaths in the world is adverse drug reactions. Broken system. It needs to change.
Yeah, I think more and more people are realizing that, but they've got a really good hold on society, and they've got great marketing, and like you said, it's all about evidence based, right? But it's one type of evidence that's very strict, and there's no room for other evidence, I guess, in that environment. But there is evidence for breath work and things like that. So you mentioned the Cambridge study, and that's really interesting to me because that gives it a little, I guess, some validation, like you said, right? And it takes it from something that could be maybe woo woo into something that does have some scientific validation. So I'd love to hear about that study.
Well, the fact that the leading instructor, the leading scientist behind that, Evan Healy, is actually starting the instructor training himself. He wants to be an instructor. Is proof that, you know,
Yeah.
he did the study and he came to me independently. I didn't know him before, and
Wow. And
like
what's his discipline as a researcher? Is he a biologist, a chemist,
he's
a
a
pharmacist?
PhD doctor,
Okay. Oh,
neuroscience,
neuroscience.
neuroscience.
Okay, gotcha. So
Yeah,
you've got a neuroscientist who looked at your approach and your method and
yeah,
studied it, validated, and not only and went so far as to get certified.
yeah. He was like, "This is amazing." So he's
Wow.
really a believer. So the study was on my flagship program, the 21-day awakening journey, which is really a whole lifestyle transformation. It's not just one breathing technique. It's really a modality that builds each week with a variety of different lifestyle interventions based on the Ayurvedic system. but it follows this intermittent hypoxic protocol. So intermittent hypoxia is the magic of breath work. There are other amazing techniques in breath work. If you look at the pranayama route of breath work, which I believe is the original route, there are many. It's like a pharmacy of breathing techniques, but one of the main components of it is called kumbhaka, breath holds, breath retention. And when you hold your breath for 60 to 90 seconds, you invoke a positive state, a positive stress on the body, and it creates an adaptive change to having less oxygen in the body. So when you take oxygen away from the body for a brief period, body freaks out, thinks it's running out of oxygen. And what they realized was that because they do this with machines in clinics by using different gas concentrations of oxygen. So you get a protocol of like 3 minutes of high oxygen followed by low oxygen for 3 minutes, and then it's like a protocol that follows where you deliver like 4 to 5 doses in a treatment, and they have incredible results. And the scientist behind that, Propakov from Russia, he basically there's another one in Israel called Shai Efrati. What they showed was that firstly, we know that mitochondrial health is the most important metric for longevity with quality of life, right? So you can live longer, but it doesn't mean you're going to have health. So to maintain good health and quality of life, you need efficient and healthy mitochondria in your cells. These are the energy centers of your cells. Now, what they've shown is that when you get a constant supply of oxygen going to your mitochondria, right, the mitochondria get fat and lazy. So for most people, they're just constantly feeding food and oxygen to their mitochondria without any breaks. And they get fat and lazy and then die, and they don't replicate and regenerate. Now, that's just like human beings. If you sit in front of the TV and you just feed yourself pizzas all day long, same thing happens, right? You'll die, right? Quickly and not a very, slowly actually, but not a very pleasant way to die. But people are doing this all day long. But the mitochondria are like that actually. But they're actually like car engines. Car engines are more of an accurate analogy. And you have to regularly service a car engine, right, for it to maintain it. And when you hold your breath, right, for a long enough time, we create intermittent hypoxia, and you reduce the oxygen supply to that mitochondria, you will make that mitochondria wake up and go, oh my God, I'm running out of oxygen. I need to do a spring clean. So old mitochondria die out, new mitochondria form, and they multiply, replicate. So it's like a pit stop. It's like a racing car on a race. They regularly do pit stops to stop it from breaking down and reaching the end of the race, right? So they can reach the end. Same thing, this breath hold technique is like a pit stop for the mitochondria. And the same thing goes with the other component of how you produce energy. It's oxygen burns glucose to create ATP, life force energy. When you take away the glucose for a bit, like through fasting, intermittent fasting, we already know how good for that is. But it all comes down to mitochondrial function. So our breath protocol, it works on empty stomach. We encourage a little bit of a fasting period in the day. And when you combine that, the compound effect of that is you kill off all the old mitochondria, you replicate lots of new mitochondria. The cell can go in 3 weeks from 1,000 mitochondria in every cell to 4,000, right?
Wow.
So imagine you've got like a really efficient cell now producing energy efficiently versus what you had before, which was this clunky old Ford banged up motor. Now you've got finely tuned Tesla, right?
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of how this works on the physical body. But the 21-day awakening journey, what Cambridge actually studied was the more psychedelic consciousness effects. So as you go into the deeper stages of the practice, week 3 you get more advanced rhythmic breathing that's faster tempo. It's a bit more like holotropic, but followed again by another way of breath holding, where your breath will pause for like minutes, maybe, or extremely slow down for like 1 minute 30, 2 minutes, even up to 3.5 minutes. And this technique is called Kevala Kumbhaka, and the normal breath hold is called Nishesha Rechaka Kumbhaka. And so we create a sequence of these pranayama practices over 3 weeks, 21 days, with the last week as the big crescendo. And that's what they found, was Cambridge found, based on the kind of questions you'd ask if you're doing a psychedelic study on psychedelics, like psilocybin. You have this altered states questionnaire.
Yeah.
The responses were as profound or more profound than the kind of psychedelic insights you get, like oneness, connection, feeling like you're being channeled by God and all that stuff, as you would from a big dose of psychedelics. So they proved that, and then they also showed that the brain changes in the same way, similar way to psychedelics, which is very interesting, and it was corresponding to the breath retention phases. That's the time when people experience the most transformational effects, which kind of makes sense with what I'm talking about. So they validate the more consciousness psychedelic side of it and the outcomes. So, you know, like reducing depression, uplifting mood, anxiety reduced, you know, a deeper connection to something beyond themselves, all that kind of stuff. They didn't study the health reversals, but, you know, like people going in with autoimmune disease and coming away without autoimmune disease. They didn't study that yet. That's the clinical trial that we want to focus on, which costs a lot of money. But what they did find was this incredible similarity between this method and what you do with psychedelics, which are currently used to treat severe depression and are currently still the best intervention for depression, ketamine, psilocybin, MDMA, because when it's done properly, it invokes the mystical experience. And the mystical experience has been shown to be the one that is the most lasting for transformation, the most effective and the one that lasts the longest for complete transformation from things like depression. So that's what you want to invoke as a mystical experience. And the Soma Breath method, the way it's done with the guidance, the breathwork part, and the holding the breath is based on ancient pranayama practices that were part of ceremony rituals that create mystical-like experiences. So it all makes a lot of sense how what we've created is a alternative to psychedelics.
I hear all the time about these ancient wisdoms and techniques, technologies, and approaches that we've just buried, I guess, in favor of pharmaceuticals lately, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's there's a fasting element, like, you know, fasting with calories, but also like an oxygen fast, it sounds like, which is really interesting. So is that something,
Right.
does it, I guess, is there benefit to just, even if you don't necessarily know what you're doing or what the techniques are, but just breathing deep and doing breath holds, or is there a protocol that is better to follow to get the most benefit out of it?
Yeah. You need to follow a specific protocol taught to you by somebody who's experienced, like a Soma Breath instructor or transformational coach from
Yeah,
Soma
I mean,
Breath.
otherwise you're just breathing deeply and holding your breath and not maybe triggering those types of effects at the cellular level that you're talking about.
And we also show you how to use this machine properly to measure the dose. And we have an
Ah,
app on it, so
what
you
is
can.
that? Is that a spirometer
It's
or
a pulse
something?
oximeter. Pulse oximeter.
Ah,
So it measures your blood saturation of oxygen, and when it goes below
mm-hmm.
90% is when
Yeah.
you're in hypoxia.
Ah,
So that's something you can use as a tool to see if you're getting a dose. But it's not just triggering hypoxia for a few seconds, it's prolonging that state for a minute or two. That's where the real magic happens, because it takes about 2 minutes. Because what happens, a missed out point, the stem cells. So stem cells hate oxygen. So when you take oxygen away from the bloodstream for a bit, the very small embryonic stem cells that hide in your bloodstream and your bone marrow come out to play because there's less oxygen. So they come out and they go to areas in the body where you need healing and reversal of like inflammation and things like that, and repair of old cells, you know, and that's what helps the mitochondria to multiply. So so stem cells is one of the secret ingredients to this whole thing, and how we
Wow.
use them and cultivate. And there's ways to actually direct them to the brain to stimulate neurogenesis, but also to divert it to areas of the body that need healing. You can actually direct the stem cells to, or the feel good
Wow.
concoction of positive hormones and stem cells. You can send them to places in the body. So these
Hmm.
are all the things we teach you how to do in Soma Breathwork.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the breathwork sessions that I've done, the breath holds were always the one that was the part that really freaked me out, right? Because even after a minute, you start to, even though I know I could breathe at any time, either exhale or inhale, it's a, it's very mental. Like I remember thinking to myself, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this any longer. I can't do this any longer. And then finally they say, okay, breathe. And it feels better. But, of course you could do it for longer, right? It's just a very
Yeah.
mental thing. Do you find that with your clients where they've got to get over this mental
Yeah.
block about breath holds in general?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the reasons people can't hold their breath that long is because of fear. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a way of overriding the fear response in the brain. So a lot of people have an irrational response to fear, where they freak out unnecessarily way before any danger is actually present.
Right.
So this will rewire that, and you'll be much more calm in more kind of hostile environments, and as a
Hmm.
result. So this is a fear training as well. It helps you train and overcome fear. So we teach you all the methods of staying calm. That's why having a guide, somebody who's making sure you're doing it properly, is very important.
Hmm.
And so just on the stem cells, it takes 2 minutes for the blood to completely circulate around your body, right? So stem cells need around a minute to two to go from one area of the body to another for healing. So that's why we recommend getting that dose longer, so you can get that 2 minute stay of hypoxia.
Hmm. Wow. So I want to go back to the mental health benefits. And I know, um, you've said you're helping people get high on their own supply, and I really like that a lot. And it seems like you can use these psychedelics to get there. But the analogy I've heard is that it's like a two by four to the face to get you there versus through your own natural breath and techniques such as Soma, it's maybe a little gentler and even possibly more effective. So how did Cambridge do the validation to kind of compare it to psilocybin or MDMA and things like that? Walk us through that methodology again, just so I can understand it.
Yeah. So the thing with psychedelics is, and versus breathwork is, psychedelics is a chemical, right?
Hmm.
It's a
Right.
substance. So when you consume a substance, the substance is controlling you. You're not in
Right.
control of the substance, substance controlling you. When you do breath work, you're in control of the method. You're consciously controlling the breath. So you're in control of this experience. Understand? So that's the two
Yeah.
distinctions. Um,
Hmm.
but the way Cambridge did it was they had already done existing studies on
Hmm.
psychedelics, like from DMT to ayahuasca to psilocybin, MDMA. They've done loads of studies, and then they did my modality as part of that, and then it was an overall comparison.
Yeah, and so was this has this been published anywhere, or is it still kind of in the
Yeah,
writing
yeah, yeah.
stages? Okay.
No, it's already peer reviewed and published. So if you
Oh,
just
gotcha. All right. Yeah, where
type
can
in
people
Soma
find that
Breath,
if they're interested? That is an interesting study.
yeah, just type in Soma Breath Cambridge University, and
Gotcha.
you'll see the
Okay.
links.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about Soma as a technique? I mean, maybe just give us some of the higher level, description of the journey people go on over the course of 30 days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so Soma Breath is really a pharmacy. So we teach a bunch of different techniques for different uses. So when you train as an instructor, you'll learn like how to unblock someone's nose in minutes, like how to fix someone's constipation with breathing techniques, how to deal with a cold and flu, how to
Hmm.
turn on focus states of consciousness, how to turn on
Hmm.
creative states, how to go to sleep on command, how to wake up feeling energized, how to heal yourself from inside out, how to enter into peak altered states of consciousness, have mystical experiences. So you're really learning an entire farm. Anything you can think of that you go to a pharmacy for, there is
Hmm.
a breath technique for that in
Hmm.
pranayama. So we
Yeah.
show you all the most scientifically validated techniques for that use. So that's the first thing you're going to learn. But in the 21-day awakening journey is like it's like bringing a lot of it together in 21 days, but it's mostly revolving around this methodology of rhythmic breathing to a beat. So when you
Mm.
do rhythmic breathing, right? Rhythmic breathing is the foundation of yogic breathing. So every function in your body is rhythmic in nature. You have biorhythms, the ultradian, infradian, and circadian rhythms. There are three different types of rhythms. So just a few minutes of rhythmic breathing a day can create harmony to those biorhythms that may go off balance when you get stressed out. All right.
Hmm.
So just a few minutes of rhythmic breathing is a beautiful feeling in itself, right? Of regaining balance and getting back into your flow. So, so our methodology begins with uh, a phase of rhythmic breathing to a beat, and this is where the music comes in because music has a groove to it, and when you
Hmm.
breathe to the music, to the beat of the music, where the music is the breath pacer, you actually are naturally having a perfect, coherent, rhythmic breath. So that's
Hmm.
where heart math studies come in, where they've showed so many benefits of coherence and heart
Yeah, I'm
rhythm.
a heart math certified facilitator, actually. So I
Yeah,
love what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So with music, it makes it so much more fun, right, and cool. And then but that sequence also, what it does when you do these, the rhythmic breathing where you're breathing in for, say, 4 beats, out for 8 beats, or in for
Hmm.
4, out for 4, it keeps you in more of a parasympathetic state, whilst also being the best for, especially 4/8 and 2/4 rhythms where you're doubling the exhale time, the best state for oxygenation of your body tissue cells.
Mm.
So what happens is you get very stored with oxygen in your body tissue cells, plus you're in a parasympathetic state, plus what you do, because you're doing it for a very long time with a slightly deeper breath, you're letting go of CO2. CO2 is what tells your brain you need to breathe in again. So if you
Hmm.
have less CO2 for that brief period, right, this isn't something you do all day long, it's just for a short sequence. You, when you hold your breath, you can hold your breath much longer than you normally can because you've got more oxygen reserves. You're in a parasympathetic, relaxed state, so the fear isn't as potent. The adrenaline isn't pumping. Your heart rate's slow and calm, and you also have less CO2, slightly less CO2, which means your brain signals to inhale longer later than it normally would. So you can hold your breath for much longer. So that's how you can get into these 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minute like breath holds. It's actually a similar method to what freedivers do to prepare to go for deep breath holds
Hmm. Right.
underwater. We still don't recommend do our breathwork techniques in water, but freedivers will do similar, very slow breathing, 4 in, 8 out, for example, for quite a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, then go into breath holds, and that is where they can hold their breath for very long periods of time underwater. So we kind of
Yeah.
mimic that, but
Yeah.
we also use energy locks. And the energy locks is what allows you to send the energy to different areas of the body when you use them correctly. So especially the brain is where what we want to turn on when we want to manifest something, when we want to create something in our life, attract something to us, right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of the sequence, and we also give you lifestyle interventions based on your energetic blueprint according to the Ayurvedic system. So you
Hmm.
modify your lifestyle, you change your diet, you go from a factory-based diet, most people are on factory foods, to a
Hmm.
non-factory-based diet. Just simple things like that, simple interventions, different ways of
Hmm.
exercising. So exercising anaerobically rather than aerobically is one of our primary things. So all of
Hmm.
this is about producing hormetic positive stresses on the body for brief
Right.
periods. It forces the body to get stronger, more resilient to stress, adapt, and eventually what happens is, as you practice this for a longer period, your overall breathing rate slows down because you get
Hmm.
very efficient using oxygen. Your need to breathe is much less, and as oxygen is the thing that makes us age, because we have a constant battle going on with oxygen because of
Hmm.
the way we produce energy in the body. It creates heat, fire, stress in our mitochondria. They're just like little tiny car engines. that produces oxidative stress, which causes cellular damage. It also causes the mitochondria to burn out.
Mm.
So by becoming very efficient using oxygen, it means you need less oxygen to produce the same amount of energy, and
Mm.
therefore you extend someone's lifespan as a result.
That's incredible. So I first came to breath work through I surf, and one of my surfer buddies said, "Hey, let's go do this thing," because he heard it was really good to help you, just to practice holding your breath so you don't freak out, right? Because I mean, for me, that was the biggest thing was the mental part of it was just when am I going to be able to take another gulp of air. So yeah, um, that's how I came to it, and then I really enjoyed it after that. So I've been trying to do more research and everything. So you
So when you
mentioned,
hold your breath, when you hold your
yeah,
breath, you produce, like when you hold it to as long as I was saying, intermittent hypoxia, you produce a dose. A dose standing for anandamide, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. So this makes you feel naturally high, right?
yeah,
So that's why it feels good and you want to do it again. And the CO2 calms your brain when it's nervous. That's why when you have a panic attack, you're breathing out of a paper bag because you're breathing back in the CO2. So you
mm,
increase the CO2 levels. You can also just hold your breath. That works too. But the CO2, nitric oxide that's also produced, calms you down and makes you feel naturally a little bit high, especially with those feel good hormones I was talking about.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
that's why people get really addicted to this. And it's actually a beneficial addiction because
right,
you keep wanting to do something that's good for you rather than
hmm,
addicted to something that's bad for you. Because a lot of people are chasing those neurotransmitters. We want
yeah,
anandamide because it's cannabis within us. We have
mm-hmm,
endocannabinoid receptors, but then we go
yeah,
and smoke a lot of dope instead, weed, right? Then there's dopamine. Dopamine is the reward hormone. It makes us feel like motivated and gives us drive and enthusiasm for life. So what do people do? They go and get cocaine and do lines of coke, and it lifts them up for a bit, but then you crash. Oxytocin
mm-hmm,
is the love hormone. It creates love, connection. Is why people are so addicted to being in social environments. Human beings are social creatures. We want to be around others.
mm-hmm,
And we get so depressed if the oxytocin is taken away from us, right? So
mm-hmm.
it's an important thing we need to talk about, oxytocin, and but we can produce it naturally and feel in love with life just from breath. Serotonin is what's used by antidepressants. We raise serotonin to lift our mood, right? But serotonin is also what's produced in big abundant doses in with MDMA. So that's why a lot of people love MDMA and the loved up feeling you get. But
Mm-hmm.
with breath work, we can invoke it naturally. And endorphins is, our own natural opiates. People go out there and do heroin to get that, right? But again, breath work, any kind of positive stress response will produce one or more of these a dose or of these chemicals I'm talking about. But the breath is the simplest one. It doesn't cost anything, and it's easy, free. Don't need any machines to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can never run out.
It's amazing to me that more people don't know this, but on the other hand, I didn't even realize this until a few years ago, and I'm interested in this type of thing, and I keep up on it, and I think I'm relatively informed. But yeah, it's not surprising that for example, the doctors or pharmacists or other people aren't promoting this type of intervention or practice because we wouldn't need them, I guess, right? Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's very true. Or we need them less, because doctors and pharmacists
Right,
and all that, they're
exactly.
good for emergency situations. Like let's say you break your arm or have like a major car crash or something, they can
Yeah,
save someone's life. But when it comes to
right.
chronic health issues and like lifestyle, like teaching a good healthy lifestyle, don't go to the government. The government do not know what's good for you. They'll have best
Mhm.
interest for you because governments are funded by donors. They have lobbyists who lobby
Right.
for corporations. So that's why every government intervention is corrupted. It's just an unfortunate fact of life. So you
Mhm.
cannot rely on your government or your doctor for healthcare because they don't want you to be cured.
Right. Yeah, and there's really there's no money in wellness and prevention, right? It's all in
No,
treatment for conditions, chronic conditions that, you can stay alive for years with these conditions as long as you have these chemical interventions, right? So it's a very
that's why
profitable
we,
model.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
why we need like philanthropic people to donate
Mhm.
to do clinical trials, because the only way governments will bring interventions in is if that is there, because that's their protocol. But only
Mhm.
drug companies can afford it. So it's a complete corrupted system. So
Yeah.
that's why it took so long for even mindfulness to get accepted. They had to do
Hmm.
so much evidence, you know, and so many years of trials, and a
Yeah.
lot of very wealthy people invested into it
Hmm.
philanthropically. And now it's a bit more accepted, but it took a long
Yeah.
time.
The volume of research on mindfulness is staggering. There is so much about it. Yet, you can do one study on a drug with a molecule that kind of shows that it works, and that's good enough, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's why.
Yeah.
But as we know that that's so good, breath-based meditation is the best
Mhm.
best way to do practice meditation. Just follow the
Yeah.
breath. Yeah,
Now you
and in Soma
mentioned
Breath,
different.
yeah, yeah, in
So
Soma
you
Breath
meant.
we make that practice very easy and fun because the
Mhm.
music, you're breathing to music. It's like your 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 breath is dancing with the beat, and that's a natural,
Mhm.
effortless meditation. Because there's many forms of meditation. Once you understand what
Right.
is meditation, like a lot of people don't understand what it is. It's very simple. We have a part of our brain called the default mode network. It's associated more with the left brain, and it's the monkey mind. It's the voice in the head that worries about the future, the past, gets hung up on things. It mulls and ruminates over stuff, and it's the annoying voice in the head usually, right? For a lot of people, it's an annoying voice. It can, for me, it's a positive. It's an inspired voice, but just that voice, anything, even if it's positive and inspired or negative, it creates a sympathetic reaction in the body. So it stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, which creates a bit of tension. If you're not moving, you're sitting still, eventually you get stiff and rigid because of this constant voice going on, especially if it's a negative voice. And that um, is one of the biggest problems that stops people from doing stuff, taking action, being productive, being well. Because if you've got constant voice going on, you've got constant sympathetic nervous system reaction, right? You are actually causing stress in the body, right? You've got constant stress switched on, sympathetic nervous system switched on. And that over time turns to chronic stress, right? So, and then eventually that voice gets so annoying, it turns into depression and people
Mhm.
break down and crash. So when you divert the attention away from that voice in the head to something other than that voice in the head, it can simply go into a rave and dancing to your favorite DJ or listen to an incredible piece of music. It could be even just reading a book can become a form of meditation in a way, right? Making music is a form of meditation for a lot of people. So you get into this flow. Whenever you get into a flow state where that voice in your head quietens right down, and you've diverted attention away from that, something other than that, that's meditation. But
Mhm.
easy ways to do that, to have a mental reset and to turn that voice off, is to just follow your breath. When you bring your awareness away from that voice in your head to something other than that, like your breath, and let's say you just breathe in and out and follow the breath, not controlling the breath, just breathing in and out, it becomes meditation.
Mhm.
That's called vipassana actually, and it has incredible benefit. Even if it's just a few minutes, when you quieten that mind, that voice in your head, you actually feel blissed out naturally. You just experiment with it, you'll feel it. But with Soma Breath, what we do is we make you breathe in time with music in a sequence that creates this other effect of intermittent hypoxia. And that journey you go on through the breath, it really feels like a journey. Um, that's what they showed in these science studies, that we just completely quieten down the default mode network. It pauses, it goes offline. This is what psychedelics do as well. It turns off that irritating voice in the head, and another voice comes from the soul, from the spirit.
Mhm.
And that's what they noticed with this technique. So we have various different breath meditation, musical breath meditations as well on our Soma Breath app. where if you want to have a quick reset, you can. You can just follow a simple breath meditation on the app, and in a few minutes, you're going to feel like, wow, refreshed.
Mm. What's the name of the app?
Soma Breath.
Soma Breath. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Good.
SOMA Breath.
Hmm. So you mentioned earlier things like focus and creativity, which are all really important. I mean, they're important for most people, but people in an entrepreneurial setting, like the folks I work with, they're always striving for that. Are there specific techniques to reach those desired states, or is that not how it works?
Um, so, so they, to reach
So
the,
if you're looking for like if you need to focus, you can take Vyvanse, right? If you need to focus or generate
yeah,
creativity, are there certain breathwork techniques or protocols that are more likely to give you those
yes,
states?
yes. So you got to understand the way your brain works. So you have left and right hemisphere. Your left hemisphere is a masculine brain, and it deals with alertness, focus. It's also your sympathetic nervous system. Your right hemisphere is your feminine brain. It's creative, it's emotional, it's connected to something other than this level of consciousness, right? And it's uh, more dreamy, right?
Mm,
So to be focused, you need your left brain more active than your right. Now, throughout the day, right, your left and right hemispheres are constantly switching. And your left brain controls the right side of your body, your right brain controls the left side of your body, which means, funnily enough, your left and right nostril change dominance,
mm,
right, throughout the day as though your left and right hemispheres. It corresponds to that. So when
mm,
your left nostril is more active, your right brain's more active. When your right nostril is more dominant, your left brain's more active. You can actually check right now which one's more dominant.
mm, yeah.
My right brain is more dominant, right now.
Mm,
My right nostril is more dominant, which means my left brain is more dominant, right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I'm more in my focused alert state. Which one
Right.
was yours?
Yeah, same. I've got my left brain is more dominant right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are techniques to turn on focus, right? One of the quickest ways you can do it is to simply sleep on your left side, right? Which will turn on your left hemisphere in a few minutes. If you just lie down on your left, let's say you're feeling all lethargic, dreamy, not creative anymore, right? Too dreamy, not focused anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? You check which nostril's more dominant. I guarantee your left nostril is going to be more dominant. So you just sleep on your left brain until your right nostril becomes more active. You'll notice it. You'll feel the switch, right? And then get up on your right foot, right? When you get out on your right foot, you're moving forward on your right body is taking control. And your left hemisphere is now more active as a result. So now your right nostril will be more active, your left hemisphere is switched on, and you get on with your day and you'll be more focused and more alert as a result. That's just one way of switching it. There's other ways of switching nostril activity. So if you want to turn on your right brain for sleep, if you want to go to sleep, sleep on your right brain before you go to bed. Always sleep on your right side, and you'll go into a deep sleep as a result.
Mm. Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, I usually fall asleep on my right side. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
good.
Yeah.
Most
Oh,
people do
cool.
actually intuitively.
Well, Niraj, if people are interested in learning more about you and your work and how to get a hold of you or just find your methods, how can they find you?
So best thing is to go to somabreath.com and check
Okay.
out all the information on our website, but download the Soma Breath app and start doing some of the courses on there. So we have several courses, the Breathworks Challenge, which is in the courses section at the bottom of the app, scroll down, you'll find it. Then we have a manifesting challenge, which is really for um, like the more esoteric spiritual side, but it's very scientifically done. So that's the
Mhm.
art of manifesting with Soma Breath. And then we also have all these different tracks, breath sessions in different um, parts. So these courses are free, so you can test it out. You can learn a
Mhm.
lot, and then you can upgrade and get access to the entire pharmacy of techniques.
Wow. I hope people do it because it is really profound. And I'm just grateful that you were here today to share your knowledge and experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
great. So, hey, I'd like to record just a couple little shorts that we can turn into reels to promote the episode. We'll share them with you and that kind of thing. Does that work?
Sure.
All right. Is there anything specific that you want to talk about? Like it'd be like a 30 or 40-second monologue that would, we'd turn into a reel or something. Anything come to mind? I wrote a few things, but I'm curious on what you think.
No, like you tell me what you think.
All right. Yeah.
What was the most
So,
interesting thing that I said?
well, well, I mean, actually, all of it was pretty interesting. So a couple things. One, I was thinking like you're just maybe a um, quick hit on, you had ulcerative colitis and you used these alternative forms of treatment to get yourself healthy. I think if you could summarize that, that would be kind of interesting and it would grab people in, I think.
Sure.
And I'll just be quiet while you do that.
Okay. So, and how long?
About 30 to 40 seconds. Would it help if I teed you up with a question?
Go for it.
Yeah, okay. So Niraj, tell us about your health issues that brought you to this work.
So back in 2010, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis that left me housebound for almost a year, shitting blood like 40 times a day. And it was the worst, but also best thing that happened to me. This is where I realized how broken the healthcare system is. I tried all the conventional treatments, and I was faced with either having my colon removed or be a guinea pig for a drug. Hasn't even been tested before. And I'm a pharmacist already, so you know, facing this prospect was not the best news. But thankfully, by grace of God, and they say God stands for a gift of desperation. Um, a dear friend of our family, Swami Amkananda, came to me and said she can teach me the foundations of yoga, pranayama, Ayurveda, all from my own culture, stuff that I had given up on, didn't really believe in. And I had to let go of my disbelief to actually really learn how you really get healthy from a holistic perspective. And that's why this was the best thing that happened to me, because it was the combination of breathing techniques, the lifestyle interventions, me falling back in love with making music that eventually led to the modality of Soma Breath.
All right. Yeah, that was good. Um, let's see. So the other one I was thinking maybe just talking about the hypoxic element of this as an analogy to intermittent fasting with food, because I think people will relate to that.
Um, okay.
So when you were talking about starving the mitochondria and that kind of stuff, so I'll tee it up a
Yeah.
little question, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's an element of hypoxia in this, which is basically starving your cells of oxygen, and it kind of makes me think of intermittent fasting with denying yourself food for a certain period of time to get a benefit. Am I on the right track with that?
Yeah. So, so one of the most exciting fields of science at the moment related to health and longevity is the science of mitochondrial function. And mitochondrial dysfunction has been linked to pretty much every like disease of old age that exists, from Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia to cardiovascular disease and so on and so forth. So your mitochondria are like the energy centers in your cells that produce ATP, life force energy. That is what drives all the function of your life. So it's important that we look after the mitochondria. Now here's the thing. Scientists like Dr. Shai Afrati in Israel, Arkady Popakov in Russia showed that mitochondria become dysfunctional when they're constantly fed a supply of fuel. So the fuel for your mitochondria is oxygen and glucose. It burns like a combustion reaction, just like in your car, the way oxygen produces energy to drive your car forward. The same thing's going on inside every cell. That's why you get hot when you exercise, for example. Um, this reaction, uh, when you are constantly feeding the oxygen and fuel, uh, when you're constantly feeding those mitochondria fuel, they get fat and lazy. So imagine you're sat at home constantly feeding yourself fuel all day long. You also will get fat, lazy, and wither away and die. Same thing happens to mitochondria. They get fat, lazy, old, and wither away and die. But what they figured out was that when you actually take away the fuel for a brief period and give it back, take it away, give it back, take it away, give it back, a protocol of doing that actually makes the mitochondria wake up and go, oh, I'm running out of oxygen and fuel. I need to do something about it. So they actually get rid of all the old mitochondria that have gone dysfunctional, and they clean out the old ones that are dead and not functioning well, and they start to multiply, and the mitochondria get replaced and multiply in number with more efficient, highly functioning mitochondria. So you may go from 1,000 mitochondria to 4,000 mitochondria in every cell when you follow a specific protocol, like we teach in Soma Breath. And that's why it compounds the effect with when you bring in intermittent fasting into it. So when you do this breathwork practice, where you're having normal oxygen followed by very low oxygen, normal oxygen followed by low oxygen, over a series of like 10, 15 minutes with several rounds, up to like an hour sometimes for the more advanced protocols. When you're doing this in a fasting state, it compounds the effect of the enhancement that comes to your mitochondria.
All right. All right, good. One final one. I was thinking maybe just like
That bit up. You might need to chop that one
yeah,
up.
yeah. The producers will they'll chop that up and make it make it work. Yeah. So maybe so like a high level one of just the benefits that you may not know about doing breath work, right? Because I'm thinking like a lot of people will maybe watch this and be like, well, breath work, what is breath work, right? So maybe just like, hey, here's the things that you don't even know you're missing out on or something,
Yeah.
or just some of the benefits of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Niraj, what are some of the benefits that people don't know about doing breath work?
So breathwork is kind of a misunderstood term these days, because breathwork's been really associated with like lying on a mat, breathing really fast for like an hour or two, and getting completely out of your mind and having a full-on psychedelic like experience. And that's just one aspect of what breathwork can do. I want you to look at breathwork as more of a pharmacy of breathing techniques. So think of all the things you can go to a pharmacy for, like if you've got a cold and flu and you've got blocked nose, you get decongestions. If you've got high blood pressure, you go and get beta blockers or something like that, that lowers your heart rate and lowers your blood pressure. You may go to a pharmacy for headaches and tension headaches and pain. And all of the things you normally go to a pharmacy for, right? There is a breathing technique for it in pranayama. And often, many times, like you can actually minimize symptoms long before you ever need to go to a pharmacist or a doctor, right? So this gives you the power back. But here's the other thing. It doesn't have the side effects as the medications, because you're in control of the method and the breath is very intuitive with your own physiology. But the other thing with it is that you can also go into these altered states of consciousness and use a form of therapy as well, just like psychedelics are being used to treat severe depression. So really, breathwork is like a pharmacy. But when you follow a breath-based lifestyle, what you do actually is you make your mitochondria super efficient using oxygen. And over time, you'll need to breathe less to produce the same amount of energy. And the thing that actually makes us age is oxygen itself. Oxygen creates oxidative stress. We have this little combustion engine called mitochondria, and that process of producing energy causes stress on the cells and makes the mitochondria die eventually. So when you need less oxygen to produce the same amount of energy by becoming more efficient, you go from a banged up Ford engine to a finely tuned Tesla, and you'll run forever, right? Those Japanese engines as well, they just last forever. You become one of them. But in the process of doing that, when you normalize the gases in your body, oxygen and CO2, you get this natural feel-good feeling, because CO2 is deficient in a lot of people, because CO2 is what we breathe out. When we exhale, we breathe out CO2. But CO2 is one of the most important gases for getting oxygen to your body tissue cells. Without enough CO2, you get oxygen deprivation in your body tissue cells. That also causes the cells to die. So lack of CO2 is one of the things that's linked to chronic diseases, right? So by normalizing CO2 levels through breath-based lifestyle and breathing techniques that you can use, simple ones from pranayama, we actually get a natural high that we feel, because CO2 is calming, it relaxes you, it gives you the right flow of oxygen to your body tissue cells, and it calms the excitatory neurons in the brain. It makes you feel more calm and relaxed. So CO2 has so many incredible benefits, and following a breath-based lifestyle, you normalize that CO2 and you use CO2 like a medicine.
All right. Thank you, Niraj. That was